Hey, this is Truth Between Lines. I'm sitting here with Justin, the Lunatic Libertarian. We got an interview. I'm actually really excited to have him on here. He's one of the first people that joined one of my live chats when I had no idea what was going on. So I always told him, let's do some collaboration together. So Justin, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So obviously your name kind of just tells a lot about what I was interested in. So just describe for everybody, what is a libertarian?
Well, libertarian is actually a spectrum. I mean, they offer this quiz, which is the smallest political quiz in the world. So you can either be on the spectrum as far as being a conservative to liberal, authoritarian to anarchist, and it goes all the way into the realm of possibility in between there. So, truly, libertarian is a person that doesn't want government in their life. They don't really believe in regulation. As minimal government as possible. Self ownership. Personal property. The non-aggression principle. If you're not aggressing on me, then there should be no reason for me to have any conflict with you. Capitalism is a big part of libertarianism because it allows for people to actually interact and prosper in a social dynamic. Because the means of exchange is equitable amongst all peoples.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I just always think about it, limited government, just stay out of the way, let me live my life the way I want to live my life, and don't regulate me, don't tax me, don't fee me, I mean, and of course, and I'm wondering too, I mean, this is 2026, obviously. You could get away with no government, 100 years ago, maybe, obviously before 1,000 years ago, of course, you didn't even have it. And I'm just thinking to myself, where would we be today if we didn't have a government? And could society function? And we'll just stick to by the way, we'll stick to the United States. I won't talk about the rest of the world and just other cultures and everything else. Let's stick to here. You can bring it up if you want to, but when I'm talking about United States. But it's like, I don't think we could function without it. Now, obviously the benefits, we got roads, we got schools, but there's so much waste and everything we kind of don't need at all. Could we eliminate that stuff? And as a society, I don't know if we could. I don't know if we would be able to lose all those things. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, yes, some form of government is okay because you're going to have in a tribal system some form of council or anything like that. You're going to have a structure of adherence to the group, right? So, yes, government is essential. But, let's look at those systems that you mentioned as far as education or the roads. How we can go right through the numbers and see how successful they are. So when I come from the point of view of security systems, right? So supposedly the government is our essential security system from foreign invasion
Right.
or anything like that. That is their essential role. Or to dispute, if there's disputes between individuals or anything like that, that's primarily what the role of government was supposed to be. It was not supposed to supply uh, a life for the citizens. That's where we've gone off the rails a little bit from our founding documents to where we are now. So, but we can look at these essential systems supposedly, and I think that the COVID epidemic or pandemic or what do you want to say was a prime example of how these systems are completely failed, in my opinion, because we can look at the public education, just go through the numbers. People are not quote unquote educated. Now, I don't like the word educated. I'd rather use the word trained because trained is a term of endearment because
Yeah.
you must have failed in order to be actually wise in whatever discipline you're in. So that is being trained. I can educate you in a line of anything that is complete nonsense. And if you regurgitate it enough, you are educated in that nonsense.
Right. Yeah, agreed. And go back to the three things that government is really designed to do. Is you nailed two of them. So, for the quiz, you want to do the third one? What government's supposed to be doing? The third three things. So you got obviously security. the borders. We got to secure the borders. We understand that, foreign invaders and everything else. Second thing was disputes among states, be able to separate the states. Can you guess the third one?
Well, I'll just read it verbatim. Libertarians argue that the state should be minimal, with its legitimate functions restricted to protecting individuals from coercion, theft, and fraud. They oppose government intervention in both personal and economic affairs.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's according to Wikipedia and the role of government as far as libertarians. But I mean, you're supposed to handle the contracts that are agreed upon between individuals, and you're supposed to provide the security from invasion.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the third one I would say, deliver the mail. That was the third one, which isn't even relevant now in today's world, but literally deliver the mail. It was actually written in the whole thing too. So, because you had to get mail across, you had to communicate and that kind of thing. But that's a little quiz on that one. So, do you think too? I mean, I look at a lot of stuff as far as our country, 39 trillion dollars in debt. You know, will we ever fight back out of that? Probably not, right? But I'm looking at all the government waste too. And to go on the true libertarian side of it, it's like, look at all the stuff we're spending on. Now, we just got done with the Olympics. They just closed up, right? What
correct.
do we have to pay for the Olympics? I mean, does the United States have to pay for that? Do we even care? Can we just eliminate that? Can they go private? Can they do all of those things? That was, well, how much money is that going to save? And then I'm looking to one thing one guy brought up a long time ago was libraries, actually public libraries. Do we really, am I responsible for educating and putting libraries into place, that kind of thing? And so the kind of two examples of things that we could just save money by just eliminating off the bat. So.
Those aren't federal anymore anyway. I mean, your local community is what's keeping the library open. I mean, and those are usually through donations or your taxes in your local community or township. That's not something that's a federal. Yeah, that's not federal, I don't think, anymore. And as far as the Olympics, I believe that most participants in the Olympics are not provided anything. Everything is provided through sponsorship or through private donation. As far as the participants in the Olympics, as far as the actual athletes. So I don't think any of that's actually paid for through government, and that's one of the reasons that our Olympic athletes are actually failing more than, say, the Soviets, or because that's actually a state-funded deal. It's not something that is funded through like private sponsorships or anything like that. I don't think that the Olympics are funded by government in any form.
I got looked up for a certain reason. Yeah. I was thinking about that just because they just closed, but I mean, well, we still train them. We still have the training facilities in Colorado and a few other places around the country.
Oh, sure. You got the Pettit National Ice Center. That's where speed skaters and curlers are training for the Winter Olympics down in Milwaukee. So,
well, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you got all the fun space. See, somebody's paying for those things. I don't know if sponsorship's going to do all of that, but I don't know. It was interesting, but we saw a lot too with the NGOs, all the money being spent. I was kind of, when Doge came out, Elon Musk, the DOGE, I thought myself, man, here we go. And it started off strong. And then it was like, oh, we saved what? How much do we end up saving? Like 90 billion or something like that. And I'm like, that's it? That's all we could find? Nothing more than that. So I was a little excited with that.
I don't think we saved any money. I think that it was eventually spent in another form anyway. So I don't.
Yeah. That's probably true. Yeah, it probably was just reallocated somewhere.
I mean, legitimately, I don't think we've saved any money. I think that they always end up in another revenue stream, regardless of what we supposedly are saving, according to Doge or the Inspector General or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think it's just decorated in the press that way. I don't watch any real press. I've completely disassociated from all that information. I think it's all nonsense and trying to keep people distracted from the true purpose of getting stuff done on a daily basis. I mean, to spend time with mainstream media, it hits my feeds and stuff like that. But when I start looking stuff up as far as the documentation, I'm looking for document numbers and true information. I'm not going off of somebody that gets paid to be a political pundit to keep me fighting my neighbor for no apparent reason other than him getting millions of dollars worth of salary.
Yeah.
Like a Don Lemon or somebody like that. This individual is a multi millionaire, was making $20 million a year to keep people divided on a national level. And I think that he should be in prison for what he's done. But that's just me.
Yeah. All right. Well, so how do you get your stuff? Where are you reading and following up on?
If I hear of an issue, I'll go to the legislation and actually look up the document. And like if I'm going to read the big beautiful bill, I'm going to take the time and read the 300 and whatever pages it was. Or I'll have it auto read to me, so that I'm not actually if I'm doing something at work, or I'll actually have it read to me. I'm not getting my stuff anywhere from a third party, or it's all direct sources. I'm not playing the game of being controlled by Tom, Dick, Harry, Susan, Paul, and Pal on the television. Because I understand that television program is exactly it. They're programming me to have an emotional response to whatever they're talking about, and I just don't give it the time of day. I don't even listen to the radio in my vehicle. I listen to either music or the audio books that I've mentioned on your live streams. So,
yeah, nice, good. What's your personal opinion as far as government overreach, and kind of go back to the government relations too with the citizens, for that matter?
well, I mean, what's government overreach, right? It's policy enforcement in one form or another because they own the threat of violence, right? So that I think that's one thing that we don't talk about when we talk about campaigns on a local level or even a federal level, right? Is the reason that these people are trying to push themselves into power again is because whoever's in power has the threat of violence under their control.
Right.
So on the federal level, it's martial law. On the local level, it's local policy enforcement with your local police, right? Because a police officer is not a sheriff. They don't swear an oath to the Constitution. A sheriff swears an oath to the Constitution. But your local police, they only care about their local ordinances and all that other stuff. And it's another form of taxation, just because they don't like what you're doing at a particular time. So
interesting. Yeah. Now, recently you had Larry Sharp on your program 3 months ago. And by the way, you see at the bottom of the screen, Lunatic Libertarian. You'll find him on YouTube. Are you on any other platforms as well? You brought that up.
No, I'm banned from. I'm permanently banned from Twitter before it even became X, and when supposedly the free speech absolutist Mr. Elon Musk came back and said we're going to buy this, I appealed my case, and no, that's actually when I can no longer see any information on X. Is when you get your IP address banned. So no matter where I log in or whatever, it knows who I am, and it's actually probably connected to my devices as well. So whatever,
we won't get
they
into
say they're for free speech. Well, the reason I was banned because I mentioned Oprah, and it was because of a situation with the schools that she has in Africa and missing children.
Yeah, that's actually I did see something popped up about her, but anyway, all right. So back to my original point. You did an interview with Larry Sharp three months ago on YouTube. You can watch it, still up there. You can do that. Go ahead and introduce who he is and kind of talk about him.
Larry Sharp is running for governor of New York. He is running for governor of New York under the Libertarian line, the We the People line, and currently he's trying to get the Republican line. So you can run under multiple lines in the state of New York.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now,
and Kathy Hochul's the current New York governor. Obviously, she's rerunning again. So okay, so he's going to be against her. I don't know if anybody else is polled, but okay.
Yeah. And this is his third time running for governor. He has been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's been on Glenn Beck. He's a very intelligent individual. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran. And his policies actually have purpose. He is very straightforward on a plan of getting rid of debt, allowing individuals their freedoms and liberties in which they are entitled to. And I believe he just had a session with Montel Williams about cannabis. And Montel Williams, another Navy veteran who had his own television show for years, inflicted with multiple sclerosis, I believe it is.
Oh, is he really?
And how cannabis products allowed him a better form of life than what traditional, and I use the word traditional very, very loosely when I talk about petroleum pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow. Okay. I'll have to look at those other ones too. Yeah. A couple of things that I wrote down when I was listening to the interview, though, was basically he was talking about government no longer builds at all. It builds anything. So no buildings, no roads, nothing like that. He was talking about subways too, as well. And in my area, in my county, it snows every now and then here. And we only have two snowplow trucks for the entire county. Like that's it. That's all we have. So basically whenever it snows more than a couple of inches, the entire county just shuts down completely. And the argument goes back to the libertarian thing. I've talked to the county mayor about it, and it's like, he says, hey, we can afford two trucks because basically that plows the interstate that comes through here. Do you want to pay on your taxes for more vehicles, more people, more salt, more everything throughout the year when we use it 2, maybe 3 days a year? What do you want to do? Or do you want to just shut down? And I thought, well, that's a pretty good way of, saving us for not wasting government resources and taxpayer money, because we're not buying those trucks and they're not sitting there all year long. So I thought that was interesting. Maybe you want to expand on that, what Larry was talking about, or maybe just tell what he was saying.
Well, I mean, it depends on what purpose that funding is derived from. And I would ask how many private citizens own 4-wheel drives and snow plows, and how that can be contracted to private business.
Right. Yeah. And actually, that's a lot of it too. Is we have a few people that do that. I mean, that's their job. When the snow starts hitting, that's what they go out there and do that. But he was talking. When you want something done, let's just say you want a road paved. Okay. If you hire someone from the government, you're going to overpay them through a lot of different variations of it. They're not really, I can say, what was the word I want to use? Not trustworthy, but basically they have no incentive to get it done in a certain time, under budget and everything else. So Larry is just saying, hey, we hire the private company. If they do a good job, you hire them again. If they do a terrible job, you don't hire them again. Or you go to a lawsuit and say, hey, you must finish this with the parameters that was in the contract and go. But if you don't, if you hire still government, you can't do that. So I thought that was a huge benefit to have that happen. I kind of would like to see that more often. I just want to get your take on that one personally. As a personal side of it too. Do you agree with them on that one?
Well, technically no, and because I'm more of an anarchist, so the purpose of a road would have to have longevity, correct? So there would be no financial incentive to have it built any other way than to last 1,000 years, right? So so there's no financial incentive to have it built out of inferior materials or anything like that, right? And there's no social incentive for it to fail. So if you're going to build something, you're going to build it with purpose, and it's going to be built once, right? So that comes from my background as far as, I'm a master diesel technician. I've been trained to be a certified weld inspector through AWS, structural steel code and stuff like that. So it's like, my idea is if I'm going to build something, and it's going to last just the whole lifetime of its purpose. So if I'm going to build a house, I'm going to pick the best materials. I'm not going to pick inferior materials because economics tells me to. I'm going to build it with the best that I got.
So how do you build? Now I'm just curious on a tangent, but how do you build a better road then? Like, what do you have ideas behind that?
Well, why do roads fail? There's a financial backing behind that to employ XYZ individual so that they have a purpose, right? We were talking about those trucks that are snowplow trucks. Well, yeah, that person would have an employable purpose, if they're operating snow removal. But if you don't have a purpose for that snow removal, then why would you employ that person, right?
Right.
So if you're going to build a house in a hurricane zone, or if you're going to build a house in a tornado zone, you're going to build it so that it can withstand, those suspected, catastrophic failing events, right?
Right.
But when we're building roads, there's a reason that there's weight limits on it. It's how they're designed. Why do we have asphalt in certain areas, and why do we have concrete in certain areas?
Right.
Why do we have reinforcement, concrete versus non-reinforced concrete? When you're looking at building materials, if I'm going to build something, it's going to be built for a purpose. And you can see the structures that have lasted thousands and thousands of years versus what has not lasted. I mean, the Roman roads that are made out of cobblestone and the concrete that in which they built their buildings out of is still there, and it hasn't deformed or anything over 3,000 years almost. So I'm not arguing with government having control of this as far as this particular argument, but if I'm going to build something, I'm going to build it once and be done.
Yeah. All right. So you brought up anarchists.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what do I want to go further with that question and ask you on that one, or do you want to answer?
Well, an anarchist is a person that finds their purpose, derives themselves into multiple different disciplines. They're not specified in society that I'm only can be a specialist in this one thing. I can only have this knowledge base in this one thing, right? So before I was going to join the military, I wanted to be a chef. So culinary arts was a very big thing in my childhood, in my teenage years. But then, what I scored on my ASVAB directed me to be in a mechanic. I worked on, earth moving equipment. And that's when, XYZ, ladder, this, everything. So to be multi-discipline is a thing that I think that is missing out of today's society. And there's people that don't have purpose. They just don't have a purpose of doing anything. They play video games all day and their purpose is to get to the next level. Well, I mean, this is true. And, there's people
100%.
that sit in front of their cameras and stream this for 12 hours, a day and get paid.
Yeah.
So, but emotionally, does that give them any purpose? Physically, does it give them any purpose? There's that aspect of it as well. Can I don't think people are built to fail anymore. I'll say that too. The participation trophy generation.
Yeah, you're talking about, yeah. I agree with that one. So what do we do with those people that just want to sit there and play video games all day?
I don't know. I absolutely have no idea, and I'm not trying to. I don't try and solve that problem. That problem was created by convenience and abundance.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing it's the same thing with health concerns. That's convenience and abundance. Well, I can go and buy 99-cent ramen noodles, which are completely devastating to my internal organs and everything. But they sell them as cheap food. I'm not knocking those that actually have to rely on that source of nutrition, but let's get down there. There's people out here that actually will cry about their situation when they have an overabundance, and then say that they can't take care of themselves, and that's absolutely ridiculous. And anarchy is self-reliance. And if I can build my home, as long as I have the materials without restriction, right? I can show I can produce generational knowledge to my children by showing them how to do that same thing, right? And that's another thing that's lost is we don't raise our children anymore. A government institution does. Why does the government get my children longer than I do? Well, my children are homeschooled. I'm lucky enough to have a situation where my wife works from home. We're still a dual income family, but there's no outside influence, and my 6-year-old has a better vocabulary than most 25-year-olds.
Yeah. Where does that change? I mean, do we attack the educational system, the public education system, and go behind that? Or I mean, what?
Well, they're accountable, right? They're a publicly funded entity. They're accountable, right?
Right.
Where's their accountability?
Well, are they accountable? No. Yeah, I was saying they're not accountable, really. I mean, you still got people graduating high school that can't read. I mean, if that's the threshold that you have to do to be able to graduate, but they're still not able to do it. Yeah.
Well, their systems are failed because if you have two publishers that publish the information that they're given, and they're only given the information so that they can regurgitate it back to the teacher, there's no actual fundamental knowledge being learned there. I'm sorry, but there's no home ec. There is no shop. There is no woodworking. There's no fundamental skills that are being learned to where, hey, you might lose your finger if you don't do this correctly. There, and the attention span of most individuals now has been trained into them. There's documentaries about it, of social media. It's been trained into them to where their attention spans have been restricted from 20 minutes to 10 to 5, all the way down to now these 60-second reels.
Yeah, I was saying 30, but yeah, I agree on that one. Where do you think AI leads all this too? Because that's it was calculators back in the day. You didn't have to count anymore. You could use calculators. Now you don't have to use English because you got translators. Now you got AI. Where does that take us in the next 10 years?
Well, I mean, the responsibility, if your children are using AI, right, that's a responsibility of the parent to make sure that that individual is not learning with that quote unquote electronic tool, right? I'm not afraid of AI. I really don't really give a shit about AI. AI is an advanced search engine programmed by human beings. So depending on how it's programming, just like your autocorrect or anything else, I type autocorrect and it's programmed to such nonsense spelling. I couldn't even tell you where it comes from.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you. And people don't understand the articulation of the English language anymore. That's why people get offended so easily, and they don't understand what words really mean. And I've gotten it's hard to debate people nowadays. I'm going to be 43 years old in March. It's hard to debate people nowadays. I'm the last of a certain generation in being born in 1983, to where these now 30-year-olds are. It's quite sad, the failures that have been placed upon them, and I don't mean that arrogantly. I've lived a very, very hard life.
Yeah.
With experiences that I've gone through with my family and everything. So I don't try and say that I haven't walked in their shoes, and I just think that it's a failure upon them if they can't articulate themselves or they can't hear words without being pre-programmed to have an emotional response. So, and I get into the psychology that's being derived now also, because I am a veteran. I went through the whole PTSD and had to go to counseling and all that, but understanding psychology as it's taught through Freud versus through Jung are two different things as well. So Freudian psychology is the ones that are pushing all of this, transhumanism is okay, and that gets into a totally different argument that I don't believe people should be mutating their offspring at very young ages. I think that people in their 30s and 40s, maybe you can do what you want.
Sure.
We were talking 4, 5, 6-year-old children. I'm not getting into that. You know what I mean? That's a totally different argument. I don't believe it. And I think that's based off of Freud, who, if you read the history, is a cocaine addicted person that actually ends up in the nut house for too much cocaine, and that's where he dies. So, that's what people are actually taught in American psychology. But yet again, we see what that has done to the American society.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 48. I just turned 48 last month. So I agree with you. I'm glad that I grew up in that generation before cell phones, before the internet. I knew what it was like to go out and ride my bike on the streets and not be able to call home or know where, people where I'm located, because I had to figure out for myself. I mean, just because when it was coming for you if you got in trouble. And I look at these kids now where they just have to film everything and everything, God, they just, every time there's a camera somewhere and they have to film each other doing whatever the stupid thing they're doing. And they're just trying to get, bigger upon bigger upon bigger. So they get the most likes and all that stuff. And, oh man, I don't envy that. I'm glad that I was able to grow up in that generation before it and see it all happen. But yeah, I'm not afraid of AI either, but at the same time, I'm fearful of the way that people are going to rely on it going into the future. And I don't know. I don't know if as a human species, where it's going to take us, not our generation, of course, it'll be 2 generations down. How do they live? How do they live overall? I mean, I don't know. I want to bring the movie Wall-E. If you ever seen the movie Wall-E, you have kids, you probably
Yeah.
seen that one. You know, I mean, are we going to be at that point where we just forget to walk because we don't have to, and so we just continue living the life that we think is right for us because our neighbor does the same thing? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that people really don't understand what's absolutely coming for them. I'm not a optimist for the future of humanity as far as our trajectory right now. So absolutely not. I think that people need to understand that as far as natural resources are concerned right now, the genome is being manipulated so much that whatever's out in nature is not going to be really in nature. mRNA vaccines have been injected into the quote unquote nature populace in deer and multiple different species all across our nation. Our crops are genetically modified; they're not heritage or heirloom seeds anymore. But there is a push, and I hope that it keeps going to get back to nature and to the natural order of things. Now, I'm a Norse pagan, so getting back to the natural cycles of the earth are something that is very, very dear to my heart, and I think that it directly involves with politics and this push for unnatural solar energy and wind that we know the textiles that they're made out of cannot be recycled. Solar panels leach into the soil
Yep.
and with heavy metals, and it's just a complete dream that has been sold to the American public. And I don't know how much of a conspiracy theory you are, but the shelved technologies because of economic satisfaction is something that I think should go to the wayside. And this is why I bring up the point: if you're going to build a road, you're going to build a road that's going to last 1,000 years. You're not going to build something that society is going to say that it's failed within 6 to 10 months, and potholes and all this stuff is going to go to the wayside, right? It's just like we had the 70-mile carburetor, you know, shit, almost 50 years ago now. So it's absolutely insane to believe anything that is supposedly going to be our savior for the future. We've seen Al Gore line his pockets with this global warming agenda, which has now been rebranded and rebroadcast as climate change. I mean,
Right.
currently, if you look at the weather systems that are going on in the upper Northeast, these are not natural airflows of the jet streams, and they never will be. I'm sorry, it's just something that doesn't come out of nature. So um, we found out cloud seeding was real when Dubai flooded.
Mhm.
So I just I don't believe in any of these systems anymore because 20 years ago you were a conspiracy theorist if you said that cloud seeding existed.
Right.
That's obviously something that is being broadcasted as what's going to save the planet now. So I mean, how much bullshit are they going to shovel into my face, and
Mhm.
I'm supposed to smell it, and I'm going to be like, hey, can you give me more roses?
Yeah, I mean that's what you're right. It was global. Well, the world was going to freeze, and then as global warming, the ice caps are going to melt, and it went back and forth. And it's like I look at it like the world is always changing. The Earth is always changing, no matter what happens. And
Hmm.
throwing money at the government is not going to solve the problem. Like, hey, give the government more money, so we'll fix everything. It's
I
ridiculous.
don't. You can look at their success rate. There are no success rates. Every election cycle, they tell us how they're going to fix the broken system,
Right.
and that's both sides. And I mean, it's like that's why I love Larry, because Larry's going to tell you exactly step by step what he's trying to do to implement to solve a problem. Hey, if I do this, this, and this is going to solve this problem. And then the economic, because I'm going to say again why I'm an anarchist is because money. When we talk about the institution of the Federal Reserve Act,
Right.
and the assholes of Jekyll Island, as I call them, uh, the sinking of the Titanic,
Yeah.
the actual historical facts that you can look at as far as the time, and you know what I mean. And this, and a lot of people love me having the name lunatic, because this is where they go, oh yeah, you're just that conspiracy guy, right?
Sure.
But yet again, my whole training is to look at what do I have functioning, what do I not have functioning, and look to assess where the problem came introduced. How do I solve it so it doesn't come back? That's my whole troubleshooting training.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what system I'm looking at. It could be an HVAC system, it could be an electrical system, it could be an engine, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
I apply that application to whatever I'm looking at. And when you look at the timelines of history that you can connect the dots to,
Mhm.
oh, well, I can see how the population was manipulated. I can see the events that happened within the next decade. I can look, okay, here are the economic changes. Oh, here's another thing that was introduced. From heroin to crack to cocaine, or sorry, I went heroin, cocaine, crack
Okay.
to methamphetamine.
Yeah.
As far as all the way back to the 20s, so it was heroin and cocaine in the 20s, all the way up to the
Mhm.
crack to now the methamphetamine or opioid. And then you look at the systems that were supposedly going to solve the problem, how much money was pumped into it, and all it is a jobs program. I think everything should stop being funded. I absolutely think every law that has been consummated since the institution of the Constitution should be retracted, along with every executive order. We need to get back to the founding documents of this country, because then there is no specification to any one group. It is very, very generic. You are no longer entitled to your labels, titles, and categories of superiority. Now we're going to fundamentally find out what you're made of. Where are your skill sets? How can you produce a life in this country when you absolutely have to rely on yourself?
Right. Yeah. And that's what I wondered. Like, could we do that? Could a 2026, in 2026, could your average 25-year-old survive?
No,
Yeah.
no.
That's what I was kind of alluding to in the very, very beginning when we first started talking. It's the fearful of the people. I mean, the farm and just do everything for that matter. Even just go out and hunt, let alone fish. I mean, I don't see it happen for, I don't know, a very large percentage of the population. Let's just put it that way. So, and that's the hard thing about United States. Again, I mentioned we're just talking about United States. There are cultures out there that do that and will be able to function completely with it, even after a nuclear explosion or some crazy thing that happens somewhere.
Yes.
They can live it because that's what they do. But yeah, here in America, we've gotten soft, to say it loosely. And yeah, that's
There's
the
a
thing.
lot of convenience and abundance. So but it's false abundance, right?
Yeah,
That's the stuff that gives you diabetes. That's the stuff that's clogging your arteries. That's
Mhm.
it's the stuff that's giving you disease. Oh well, I can go to the pharmaceutical companies and be like, I got XYZ problems, and they're going to pump me full of XYZ drugs, and it's going to cause XYZ more problems. But I'm
yeah,
not going to get up and run 2 miles a day to get
right.
my cardio up. I'm
Yeah,
going to not eat the crappy food,
yeah, sure.
and
Well, I
crappy
mean,
food is
soda's
shit that
cheaper than
comes out of a
water.
box.
When soda's cheaper and it tastes better than water, you're going to go with a soda. And that's the
Right.
unfortunate thing. You just need to put that aside. Yeah. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying I'm obviously perfect. So there's a lot of things you could do and we just choose not to. And that's, it's hard. It's a hard situation. Any other conspiracy theories with the CIA I want to bring up? That was a conversation we had not too long ago on a live chat. What was
Yeah.
happening with that? Any ideas you want to throw out there?
Well, I don't think that they're quite conspiracy theories anymore. I mean, I think that
That is true. Yes, when they're proven right a lot of the time. Yeah, yeah,
well, I mean, we can look at Project Paperclip, or
yep,
Project MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird. These are all proven through I think even Freedom of Information Act, or even just the time lapse of the individuals that are now who participated in these systems are dead.
yeah.
Usually that is the precursor of when documentation gets released,
Right.
is that all the participants who can be held accountable are now deceased. So
Yeah.
you look at they say that that's why they're still not releasing the JFK files all the
I was going
way,
to
is
ask you
because they're
about that.
still,
Yeah, because everybody kind of should be dead at this point. You would think. I mean, I guess
well,
not.
yet again, it still goes into, why do we have shelved technology? That's also a CIA kind of like deal because let's take the Maduro
Well, actually, real quick, shelf
evac
thing, shelf. What is it?
shelve technology.
What is that exactly? Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to type in shelf technology into a Google search, right? So the guy who had the car that ran on water
Yeah.
and
Right.
then died. I forget it was Steve. Steve
Oh,
something. I
I
forget.
got you. Okay. That
And
makes sense.
then he was killed right after he signed his contract, right?
Yeah.
And then there are examples of individuals that have been on Joe Rogan's podcast that have said, "Hey, I've been to these these innovation expos, and you'll see a booth there one day, and then it's not there the next." You know,
Yeah, that's shelf. So what they're doing is they're shelving the information or the patent or whatever else it is. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
yeah,
Okay.
because
So fast forward. You mentioned Maduro. Go ahead. I cut you off.
so you have shelf technology. Then you look at Maduro, and then what Trump is saying as
Oh, the
far as the
nuclear.
information, what technology they have. We have such great weapons. They don't even know what we have. We have. It took us 10 minutes. We got his ass in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And it's like, yes, being a military veteran, this is. I mean, there's literally the plasma gun on a destroyer. Like
Yeah.
literally, the laser gun is on as a main weapon on a destroyer. So it's. But yet again, there's sound manipulation. And I learned this when I actually started deep diving into frequencies when I really got into welding
Mhm.
and how frequency manipulation
Yeah.
creates the weld when it solidifies. So the profile. So if you want a real nice weave, you can manipulate your through an analog signal how this energy is being inputted into this material, and then what the weld profile is going to look like at the end.
Okay.
It's the same thing when you look up sand on a speaker. And which frequencies actually produce what sound shapes. You know what I mean? So it's a whole different discipline of information on frequencies.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That's funny. Yeah.
like I've gotten into such many subjects just based on being a tradesman.
Mhm.
As far as this
Yeah.
is how electricity functions. This is how amperage moves through an electrical circuit. This is how when I use this much amperage at this frequency on this material, this is what's going to happen to when I make this material liquid. Then when it resolidifies into a solid, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why they call this a welding wand, because I'm literally a fucking wizard manipulating this material, and then it goes into there when I was in materials testing, the Viking sword, which actually is something that goes back to ancient history, and the guy is actually in Wisconsin that made it. It was a part of actually my materials testing class for metals.
What is that? What you said? The sword. What? Like a physical sword?
It's called. Yeah, it was a PBS special. If you look up the Viking sword, it's called the Ulfbert. So they couldn't metallurgically reproduce this sword for 1,000 years, and then they did it. And the guy who actually recreates it actually is in Wisconsin, and I think it's Brown County.
Okay, I'll have to look that up then. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, but they were talking about where the Vikings actually traded. So Damascus steel comes out of us, and the way that steel is processed, they couldn't reproduce it in European countries for over 1,000 years. So where did these ancient warriors get this steel from? And then this guy in Brown County is like, oh yeah, metallurgically I can and this is how we did it, and he did it the old-fashioned way.
Wow.
And you can buy one of those swords too. It's about $7,800.
Okay. I mean, it's like how they create the pyramids and Stonehenge and all that stuff. I mean, but then you got a guy in his backyard flipping stones through, different ways. And it's amazing how they play it out. Yeah.
Well, when I talk to people about, they're like, "Oh, well, would you be able to do that?" And then it's like, "Yes, I actually understand the information of carbon content of steel, and I can give you the equation. And yes, I understand where to go get pig iron if I need to smelt it, and what do I need to add as far as the materials to make sure that I have the steel that I need." And they're like, and it's like, well, you're just a mechanic, and it's like, yeah, I understand systems, man. Just
Yeah.
because you know when the whole COVID shit happened, they were like, oh, you're getting the vaccine, right? I'm like, fuck, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
No. Yeah. I didn't either. So yeah, that's
But individual choice is something that really was brought out in that as well, and and that's what really actually got me active in the Libertarian Party is COVID, is because it's like
Hmm.
there's not people out here that's going to tell me what I can and cannot do with my life. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Who are you? What can you do? What is your purpose?
Yeah.
And then I find out people actually don't know shit and they don't have a purpose on the majority side.
Hmm. Yep.
And I
Yeah.
talk to a lot of doctors and people with MBAs and all this other degrees and all this, and they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as whether they're supposed to survive or not, as a military veteran, there are people that are supposed to survive, and there's people that are not, and people are like, "Well, you're cynical," and it's like, "I'm sorry, but reality's reality."
Yeah.
And I'm not here to kumbaya with everybody. If you have resources that I need and you're weaker, I'm definitely taking them from you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, because it comes back to survival of the fittest. That's exactly what it is. If you're, if that's the point, if you're not good enough to hold what you got or do what you need to do, you're not going to make it. That's plain and simple. And sometimes culling the herd is not a bad thing, especially when you're talking about wildlife and everything else. So you have to do it. That's just nature. You talk about nature, I mean, that's nature right there. You get the strongest survive. Yeah.
Well, and I tell people that the most screwed up thing about it is that the globalists win no matter what. They're going to reduce the population. They're going to have the most resources, and no matter what, they win.
Yeah, we were just talking about that this morning. Yeah, there's a lot of globalists out there. Yeah, well, the Davos thing, but I don't know if we get into that. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to talk about it. I could question you on that one, but I'm very curious on all that stuff moving forward. Talking about all the things methodology and just the things. You ever thought about being a teacher, teaching these trade schools, and that way making it fun for kids that actually want to be able to be self-reliant?
I don't think that trade school is really for me to be an instructor because there's just too much internal politics as far as even to be a foreman or a lead man on a crew nowadays.
Yeah.
It's something that is not direct information is not looked at as a positive anymore. Criticism on a direct excuse me criticism on a direct failure is not a positive anymore. You can criticize for a direct failure and you will be looked at as the person that is in the wrong, even though you're trying to correct something that it was done improperly. Now, people don't understand that you can't circumvent certain procedures for a reason. So when you look at a welding procedure or if you look at a torque procedure, they're there for a reason. And there's a lot of people that want to put through shortcuts in life. And when you don't allow those shortcuts anymore, it kind of goes, what are we going to allow? And this is why our quality control is down. This is why we're allowing shitty buildings to be built, bad houses. Home inspectors, I believe, are rejecting like 70% of new projects now because they're not built correctly.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that we have these rules, but if nobody's going to follow them, aren't we in anarchy already?
Yeah. Yeah, we're hearing a lot about that coming forward with the laws that are on the books now, and people aren't, enforcing the laws, or then they start doing it and you forget that they're on the books. So yeah. No.
Well, I mean, people that can't speak English running loads across the country can't read signs, killing people.
Yeah.
We have buildings being built by inferior contractors that don't understand building codes. Do I believe in all of these regulations? Absolutely fucking not. I think a lot of people get paid, and it creates economic opportunity as far as creating another job. I created another title. This new entity exists. Oh, well, I'm reforming the economy, and that's all it is. But where is the trust between human beings anymore? I have to rely on the government to tell me that I can trust you. What is that? But then just as long as I line your pockets, that's where that trust derives from. And that's another thing that's failed in this country.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you make a good point. I mean, you can't handshakes and all that stuff anymore. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You got to have some kind of thing in writing and forms and everything else. It's kind of sad. It really is, on the same token of it. Yeah.
Well, you lean more Republican, right? You lean more Republican, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And if I were to ask you, was January 6th an insurrection, you'd probably tell me no.
Right. Yes, I would.
And I would agree with you because it is the people's responsibility to overthrow a tyrannical government, regardless if you're smashing windows or the opposite side agrees with you. Usually the people that have that power that don't want you to take it's going to agree that, well, you're the insurrectionist. Yeah. Or you're committing sedition. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, how many civics classes are taught nowadays between
I don't
second to 12th grade? You tell me.
I doubt there's any out there, really, honestly. I mean,
so how many individuals actually know when they look at the television they're talking about it's an insurrection or what sedition is?
Right. Well, as soon as you said the words when they look at the television, I shut down. I'm like, no, that's their first problem. That you can't look at the television. That's the thing. It is, I believe, and that's another big reason I started this channel too, was I just wanted to talk and I wanted to have interviews and talk to people and learn from other people as well. I mean, that's my whole goal behind this thing. I don't have some agenda that I'm like, hey, do I lean one way? Yeah, I do. But at the same time, I want to learn more to figure it out. And I'm going to learn more from other people, not from the television or the books or anything else. It just, and you got to learn, I think, too, to take, I can learn all this stuff, exactly everything I just said. But if I just regurgitate it, I don't actually think about what I'm saying or think about all of the aspects, the left, the right, up, down, all 10 points or whatever it is. If I can't figure out how to make it all work till I say, you know what, that doesn't either that makes sense or it doesn't make sense. That's where you're lost in the conversation. And it's just a waste of time to be able to do that because if you can't formulate it, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of people that run off of emotional content in their life, and there's a lot of people that don't actually have an argument behind what they think is an argument. And I've debated so many people that just repeat and regurgitate the television from the 30 whatever felonies that Trump supposedly. It's like it's not a felony. I'm sorry, if it was actually a felony, be in prison,
be in jail.
But yet again, you have these talking points that are, yet again, they're repeated so many times that it has to be truth, right?
You start believing it, sure. Yeah.
We live in a democracy. That's not the truth. We live in a democratic republic.
I don't know how many comments you get on your channel, but I get a lot, and I look at something, I read it, I'm like, I fire back. Did you even watch the video? Like, did you just look at the headline? Like, did you actually watch it? And typically I never get a response. And I'm like, well, you're a dumbass. You saw whatever you saw, whatever either the words I used or a picture I used, and you just jumped on it and thought that's it. I'm like, well, thanks for extending that conversation, genius. That's great. God, I wish I could read one to you a minute ago. I just did too. And it was like, God, all right, that's outstanding. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. You have a great day. And I'm like, get the hell out.
Well, and there's a lot of people that will say, well, I can do this or I can do X, Y, Z to you. And I tell people, I'm like, I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, right.
I'm not hard to find. I absolutely have a reputation for not being hard to find. I'm not living a lie, and I'm not looking for clicks or anything. I think our country is in a very, very bad spot. Yeah. And I'm not speaking from a sarcastic or entertainment point of view. I'm not looking for clicks or anything like that. When I got on YouTube, I was looking to promote libertarian candidates for the 2022 election cycle.
2020, yeah.
And we ran in Jacob Vandenplass in Wisconsin, and he was running against a Republican, Mike Gallagher. Mike Gallagher is a veteran as well. But yet again, Mike Gallagher quit mid of his term after that election. So if you want to go look up Wisconsin, Congressman Mike Gallagher and how he quit his term mid-term and left his constituents out to dry, because, oh well, accountability is coming down the pipe. I don't think Jacob would have faltered there, and it's kind of funny that Jacob Vandenplas was my very first interview, and that was on an audio platform only.
Oh, is that right? Is that on here? Yeah.
It should be on. It's actually on Spotify.
Oh, okay. It's above. Okay. Yeah.
My very, very, very first interview.
Yeah.
And that's actually, and he's a former Republican, and that's how I found libertarianism. And Spike Cohen, Larry Sharp. These are people, and I interviewed a lot of libertarians, that ran for very, very big positions as far as running even for president, and then they don't get a chance because they're either one sued off the ballot. People don't understand the actual process to get candidates on the ballot, but they'll argue all day about how a certain XYZ person should be on the ballot. And it's like, do you not understand that Obama sued his opponent off the ballot when he ran for senator in Illinois? Do you not understand the actual political process? Do you know that you got to go knock doors and get signatures? And until you're actually in the political process, a part of a party, you really don't understand that. Yeah. So I grew up Democrat in Milwaukee. Everybody's a Democrat, vote blue. And then when you really start getting into it, you're like, blue or red, they can all go pound sand because nothing changes. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a diehard politician because I'm a felon. I can't run for office, and I don't think I ever would. I don't think I could get enough people behind me as far as a purpose-driven campaign to say this is how we're going to actually change something, because I think that goes too much into the former revolutionary gang mindset of maybe the Panthers or the Rainbow Coalition. And I think that's another thing people forgot about. During the 60s, the Rainbow Coalition, these were people that were of all colors, races, and creeds that came together and said, this is what's happening in our streets, and this is not something that should be happening. And now everything is, you're a racist if you say this or say that. I'm sorry, but I do use the N-word. I do not care. If you're thinking you're going to impose some violence on me because I do say it, by all means, you're more than welcome the opportunity to defend yourself after the fact. Because I'm a free speech absolutist.
Yeah.
And if you're afraid of language, there's something emotionally wrong with you. I'm not afraid of language. And I'm not afraid of, because I've recognized the danger of the speech that's being imposed upon people who can't think for themselves.
Yeah. Huge. All right. You want to wrap up then? As far as anything else you want to bring up?
No, because I can go for hours, man. I literally can go for hours. And, I want people to go look up, man, his name is Friedrich Bastiat, and go listen to an audio book called The Law. It's only going to take you 2 hours to listen to this book.
How do you spell that?
Frederick is his first name.
Okay.
His last name is Bastiat. And the book is called The Law.
The Law, yeah.
And then you will hear so many libertarian point of view brought into about what the law is actually supposed to be.
I have that book. I actually have it. I don't think I've read it. Crap. Yeah. It was actually given out at one of the meeting that I went to. That's interesting. Is it like pink? It's like a salmon color or something like that. The front cover.
I don't know. Most of my information
I actually seen the
is on an app.
Yeah. Well, I like books. I mean, if you've seen my live chats before, I have a little bookcase behind my green screen up here. But anyway, we'll get into that later on. That's interesting. That is funny. Now I'm going to read it because I put it off. Anyway, all right. Well, good deal. We're hitting the hour, so that's pretty much what I offered you. We'll do an hour. So if you guys want to hear Lunatic Libertarian more often, put it in the chat, put it in the comments, let me know. Maybe I can convince him to get onto a live chat with us, do a live stream as well. But put it there in the comments. Let us know. We'll do one more down the road. If you have any subjects you want to bring up too as well, put that in the comment section too. So anyway, Thank you, Lunatic. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to check out a lot of stuff. I made a bunch of notes on here. Wishing Larry Sharp well in New York. I mean, that's going to be huge on that one. And I'll definitely watch his other videos too. So anyway.
One thing I got to say is that I have a Democratic Socialist that is running for governor in the state of Wisconsin. I have contacted her on Instagram and asked, the simple question was, would you come on a Libertarian podcast? She said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for a Democratic Socialist to come onto a Libertarian podcast, I would ask anybody to Google both Libertarian and Democratic Socialist. And I would, this person is running for governor of the state of Wisconsin on the same cycle. Her last name is Hong. There's a video that went viral of her not pledging allegiance to the flag.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's and it should be pretty good. I'm hoping that they will follow through after they find out and do their due diligence about who I am. But yes, as you can see, I have the Statue of Liberty, the original Statue of Liberty torch.
Yeah.
On the back of my arm that was actually still contained the flame of liberty. I have my eagle that got done in my kitchen of my father's house. And then I have this one, which is the prisoner of war and missing in action flag. So people, I live by my convictions. I don't speak from a point of rhetoric. I have no political view in this, and I have no monetary value in this. I really want people to have purpose in their lives and to be able to have families and to just be able to live free. And by living free, that doesn't mean by the means of other people. It's literally by what you can produce for yourselves.
That's good. Well, if you want to hear more information and follow up with the past and the future interviews that Lunatic's going to do, look it up at the Lunatic Libertarian. That's the handle for YouTube. And guys, I appreciate your support and everything else. And that's the truth between lines.
See the truth between the lines. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. Between the lines.